You heard Shannon mention the Occupy movement. Occupy Wall Street is at a major crossroads after days of major police crackdowns all across the country. I want you to take a look. Those Cal Davis protesters paid the price for their encounter with police. Meantime, back east, police evicted demonstrators at the epicenter of the movement. Well, that's New York's Zuccotti Park, and the police action appears to have worked. The park is mostly empty and quiet today. I'm going to go to Dorian Warren. He joins me now. He's a professor of political science at Columbia University. Thanks for joining me once again. So listen, Professor, the Occupy protesters have lost their gathering spots in many cities. They need a new place to meet, to sleep. Have these protests run their course?
I don't think so, Don. And in fact, every time there's a lull in the protests, there's a spark of something that happens, usually police brutality of some kind, that gets people energized again and gets them motivated and recommitted to the Occupy movement. And I think we see this with the UC Davis footage and the pepper spray. And remember, it was pepper spray from a cop early on that actually got around virally on YouTube and other places that really blew up the movement in many ways.
When you look at this video, and we're playing it now, and you see the aftermath of it, people trying to wipe their eyes and clean their faces, what about this police action we've seen? Are police going too far here in your estimation?
I think they are, and I think this is also what happens in most social movements. So if we think back to the civil rights movement, we see those images of police brutality against nonviolent protesters who are engaging in civil disobedience of some kind.
So hang on one second.
You call sympathy.
Listen, are you calling this police brutality, or do you think that it's police rightfully doing their jobs? You think it's over the line? You think it's brutality?
I think it's brutality, and I think it's not very different from fire hoses, frankly. When it's a peaceful, nonviolent group of people expressing their First Amendment rights and they're pepper sprayed for no reason, I think that's over the line, and I think most Americans probably see that and think the same thing.
Is this where the lack of organized leadership hurts this movement, you think, because and makes it harder to reorganize once they have been evicted from parks? Because they really don't have one singular spokesperson or maybe one famous person who can get on television and sort of lead them and become the face and the voice of the movement.
I think that's right now still to the advantage of the movement, because it makes it so that there aren't any particular targets that opponents of Occupy can really focus in on. So it leaves opponents of Occupy scrambling to figure out how to undermine or delegitimize the movement in some ways by trying to find information on some credible leader, but they can't because there isn't one spokesperson. So you have a range of people, and for now, I think that's an asset for the movement.
You think it's listen, I have been watching the coverage, a lot of coverage on this movement, Professor, and you see people talking about, in the media, talking about people having sex, about rapes, about sexual diseases being transmitted, about drugs, about the filth at some of the compounds. And so there doesn't seem to be an organized, at least PR campaign. They're not watching their PR. And in many ways, it looks like their PR may be outshining them, doing more harm to their movement than good. So I'm not sure what you mean. You think when you say you think it's good that they don't have one moving target, I think their own PR may be harming them in some way.
That might be true, but here's the flip side of that. So now that they're evicted from these places, that argument about what's happening in the parks can't be used anymore. So and I'll give you another example. Today, a big story was broken by Chris Hayes about this memo drawn up for the American Association of Bankers by a DC lobbying group. That the group actually drew up a proposal of $850,000 that they wanted the banking lobby to commit to them to launch a campaign against Occupy. So they're taking Occupy very seriously, and they're figuring out a way to undermine them and to ward off any Democratic politician connection to the movement leading into the next election cycle.
Yeah,
so very, very interesting. Even if there's no PR from the movement or no coordination, its opponents are very much worried about what the effect of this movement might be.
Yeah, it doesn't take an investigation to figure that out. All you have to do is watch the coverage on different networks, and you can see what you're talking about. Thank you, Professor. We appreciate it.